Hello and welcome to Brain Power. I'm your host Thomas Trombley and we'll be discussing topics ranging from current news, world events, and religion. Basically, whatever bit of news that catches my eye. If you have a story you'd like covered here or a question you'd like answered, send me a message on Twitter at BrainPowerUp. Use the hashtag BrainPowerUp, like the group at facebook.com/BrainPowerOnline, or visit the website at brainpoweronline.webs.com. Today is actually Saturday, August 15th. I'm just going to be having a little bit of trouble with the Sunday schedule for the next couple weeks or so. So the next few episodes will end up being a little bit early. Woo! Big deal. Anyway, that being said, on kind of a similar note, I guess, I'm actually looking to expand this podcast and get a YouTube channel. Now, the problem that I'm facing right now is the fact that, YouTube does not take just straight MP3 files. It has to be an actual video. Now, the problem that I'm facing is I am woefully inexperienced when it comes to video manipulation and things like that. So, it's weird. I mean, audio I can do. It's sound manipulation. I can knock that out of the park. That's not an issue for me. Um, does anybody know how to convert MP3 to video? It's weird. I mean, I can strip the MP3 from a video, but I can't seem to embed it into a video. I don't know, just having a little bit of difficulty with that. If anybody has any thoughts on how to make that process a little bit easier for me, uh, please let me know. Send me an email, shoot me a tweet, whatever you want to do. Anyway, moving on, we got, as usual, got a great little collection of stories here. Some of them are exceptionally stupid, and some of them are, well, rage-inducing, but we'll get to the rage-inducing ones later. Yeah. So we're gonna start things off here with a story that I never really thought I would have to read anything like this, but then again, also it's people are stupid. It helps to have friends in high places to get you into low places. In this case, the fetid New York City sewer system. A worker for the city's Department of Environmental Protection and two fellow treasure hunters were arrested on trespassing and other charges early Thursday after residents in a quiet section of Brooklyn, accustomed to the NYPD mantra of see something, say something to combat crime, saw something. That something was the three men allegedly prying a cover off a manhole around 9:30 p.m. Wednesday. Then two of the men disappearing down into the sewers, the New York Times reports. Their goal, to use metal detectors to find treasure people had flushed or lost down the drain. An NYPD spokesman tells Reuters, you don't just open a manhole cover like that and jump right in. It was like Indiana Jones in Brooklyn. Cops nabbed 21-year-old Marquise Evans, a part-time worker with the DEP, on the street. The fumes were too overpowering for police to go after his alleged cohorts, Damian Nieves, 35, and 45-year-old David Hannibal, emerged sludge-covered and without treasure just after midnight, per the Times. God knows what they were looking for, NYC Police Commissioner William Bratton told reporters. I know damn sure I wouldn't be crawling through the sewers of New York. The commissioner says there wasn't much that could have been done to prevent the determined men from infiltrating the ick. We're not going to weld the manhole covers all shut, he says, per CBS New York. Any idiot who wants to crawl down below the streets unfortunately can do it by prying. The Times notes the covers can weigh as much as 195 pounds. Now, it's... what kind of an idiot do you really have to be to think that people are flushing diamond bracelets and whatnot down the toilet? I mean, it's... Really, if you want to use a metal detector to find treasure, You go to the beach. You go to your local park. You go around a parking lot. I mean, there are much better locations to find hidden treasure. I really don't think the sewer system is one of those locations. I could be wrong here. I don't know for certain, but I'd be willing to place a bet. It's just, God, you're stupid. Just, just stupid. It makes, whatever. Anyway, on to another stupid, very stupid note. I saw the headline, and that immediately was enough for me to just, okay, I need this story. Guy in bear costume harasses bears. That was just enough for my interest to get piqued. Authorities want to talk to a man who donned a fairly realistic bear costume, head and all, and wore it when harassing a bear and two cubs trying to feed on pink salmon in an Alaska river. The incident happened earlier this week on the Chilkoot River near Haines, says Mark Soggy, an Alaska Fish and Game biologist. It wasn't immediately known what the man was trying to accomplish. A crowd had gathered at a weir used to count fish because the sow and two cubs have frequently been showing up there to feed during the salmon run. They were at a safe distance from the weir and were startled when a man decked out in a bear outfit ran through the area Monday evening. The man began to jump up and down and then got close to the cubs, within 5 to 10 feet, Soggy says. An Alaska Fish and Game technician moved the sow out of the way for the man's safety, and then tried to talk to the man, which Soggy says was a little outside his normal duties. Our job is to count fish, Soggy says. The man refused to identify himself, and Soggy says he told the technician, "You have the license plate number, you figure it out." The man then drove off without ever removing the costume head and revealing his face. Wildlife officials reported the incident to troopers, including the license plate number, and the man could face wildlife harassment charges. Now, for me, this is one of those cases where it's, again, how stupid do you have to be, really? You've got to have some kind of a death wish to get that close to a mama bear and her cubs. It makes no sense to me. And the guy probably thought he was safe because he was dressed up as a bear. Otherwise, I mean, what was he trying to do? Save the fish? Was he just trying to scare the bears just for the sake of scaring the bears, or what the hell was going on? What's going on through this guy's brain? I don't even think anything was going on through that guy's brain. I think it was just him just going, "Hey, look what I can do!" Anyway, moving on. Oh, yeah, that's right. Actually, I just realized looking through the stories that I've amassed. This is yet another. I say yet another as if there's many. This is the second now episode that is Trump free. Holy crap! There's no Trump here. But that's okay because Jeb Bush is there to pick up the slack. Pardon me, my goodness. I had kind of a scratchy throat. Hillary Clinton hasn't been shy about calling out Jeb Bush, but Bush has largely held his return fire. It appears that will change in a big way tonight, tonight being August 11th, during a Bush foreign policy speech in California, reports Politico. Excerpts released in advance, so Unfortunately, I haven't followed up on this, so I really should have, but oh well. Excerpts released in advance show that Bush intends to talk about the rise of the Islamic State under the Obama administration's watch and ask, where was Secretary of State Clinton in all of this? Among other things, Bush will accuse her and President Obama of bungling the end of the Iraqi war and disengaging too soon. Like the president himself, she had opposed the surge, then joined in claiming credit for its success, then stood by as that hard-won victory by Americans and Allied forces was thrown away. Bush will say, in all her record-setting travels, she stopped by Iraq exactly once. The New York Times describes it as a full-throttle attack. Meanwhile, the two candidates were exchanging Twitter burns over Clinton's newly unveiled college debt plan, notes Business Insider. And I'm actually going to jump right into the next story just because it ties in very well because, hey, it's another Jeb Bush story. Now, this one yeah. Pardon me. George W. Bush left Iraq in pretty good shape, only for President Obama to mess it all up, according to Jeb Bush anyway. The candidate, speaking at a national security forum in Iowa yesterday, continued to defend his brother's war record, arguing that taking out Saddam Hussein turned out to be a pretty good deal, Bloomberg reports. He blamed the rise of ISIS on Obama's failure to strike a deal for U.S. troops to stay in the country after 2011, and said that under the Bush administration, the mission was accomplished regarding Iraq's security. That is a fact, he said. You can't rewrite history in that regard. Bush said the 2007 troop surge was a courageous move, but that chaos occurred when the next administration declared success and washed their hands of the effort, reports Politico, which notes that 17 of his 21 foreign policy advisors served under George W. Bush. The candidate, who admitted months ago that he wouldn't have invaded Iraq knowing what we know now, said mistakes were made after the invasion, and that he and his brother now believe disbanding Iraq's military was an error. He also refused to rule out lifting Obama's ban on torture, telling the forum he didn't want to make a definitive blanket kind of statement, the AP reports. Now, think about that for a second. Like, this whole story as a whole. That tells me that Jeb has been sitting aside, biding his time, and now that things are finally starting to heat up a little bit more, now he's becoming this front runner, attack dog, jumping out. My personal favorite though is, well, just before Obama came into office, Iraq was great, and it's Obama's fault that everything went sour, that reminds me of something my dad used to tell me when I was a kid. If ever I was stacking something, like putting toys away in the closet or stacking up soup cans in the kitchen, whatever. Just because the tower is still standing when you walk away doesn't mean it's not your fault when it falls down. That's exactly what this is here. Iraq may have been temporarily stable at the end of the Bush regime, but that doesn't mean that it's Obama's fault that it toppled. It was a temporary stability. We all knew it. Or at least anybody that was paying attention at the time knew it. There was no way that could have lasted, and what do you know? It didn't last. Yeah. And I just want to point out, I'm not trying to defend Hillary here. Personally, I am a little bit of a supporter of hers, but, I do agree with Jeb in the way of initially she was against everything that was going on, and then she kind of jumped on the coattails and said, yeah, we did it. It was great. It was all us. We did it. Yay. I don't care much for that. That's that bandwagon bullshit. Uh, but then again, also, you know what JEB stands for, right? JEB. Just elect Bernie. Just my opinion, of course, but that's alright. Anyway, moving on. How about... Hmm. Ah, here we go. Here's kind of an uplifting story, but kind of a sad story at the same time. The police chief in Arlington, Texas, has fired the trainee who shot and killed an unarmed college student during a burglary call last week. Chief Will Johnson said Officer Brad Miller used poor judgment when he decided to open fire on Christian Taylor during a late-night call at an auto dealership, reports AP. Taylor was moving toward the officer when he was shot multiple times, but the chief says there was no physical contact between the men. Police audio reveals that officers were on the scene about 2 minutes before the shots were fired, reports ABC News. The 19-year-old, who played football for Angelo State University, allegedly drove his vehicle through the front window of the dealership after breaking the windshield of a car there. This is an extraordinarily difficult case, said Johnson, per the Dallas Morning News. Decisions were made that have catastrophic outcomes. The case is expected to go before a grand jury to determine whether Miller will face criminal charges. Once again, it's definitely a sad story that this kid, granted the kid was a criminal. Let's be honest, he was committing a crime. But at the same time, that officer had no reason to use lethal force. I mean, if you're really, really worried about this suspect coming towards you, use your taser, use your baton, hell, use your fists, I don't care. But there was no reason to pull a gun. More importantly, there was no reason to fire that gun multiple times. So I'm very, very glad to hear that this cop is done. He definitely needs to be fired, minimum. I think, yes, criminal charges should be brought. That's what would that be? It's not manslaughter because it wasn't an accident, but it's not. It would be what, like third degree murder, I think. Where you intend to kill somebody, but it wasn't your intent from the start. You just, oh no, he's coming at me, shoot him. I think that's second or third degree murder. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer and I don't plan on murdering anybody, so the distinctions really don't matter that much to me. Anyway, my goodness, I am sorry. I had a catch in my throat. Anyway, speaking of murder and death and killing and all that good nastiness. And actually, speaking of the Iraq War again. Gassing Iraqi Kurds was considered one of Saddam Hussein's most heinous crimes, and American officials now suspect that ISIS is doing the exact same thing. And it may be using Saddam's old weapons. Officials believe the militants used mustard gas, a chemical weapon banned worldwide in 1993 against Kurdish fighters in northern Iraq this week. Pardon. The group's battlefield use of the agent is obviously an extremely worrying development, officials say, and it's not clear how ISIS obtained it. It could be from one of Saddam's old stockpiles, or from stockpiles in Syria, where President Bashar al-Assad claimed in 2013 that all the regime's mustard gas had been destroyed. My goodness. If they do possess these kind of weapons, Democratic Representative Adam Schiff tells CNN, my guess is they're more likely to have gotten them as old weapons left over in Iraq from the old WMD program there than they were likely to obtain them in Syria in some kind of a hidden cache of the regimes. ISIS seized the Saddam regime's old chemical weapons plant last year, though officials said at the time that anything left there was probably useless. U.S. officials have downplayed the risk to American personnel in Iraq, saying they're not engaged in combat and, in any case, mustard gas has to be used in high concentrations to be fatal. It's, it doesn't matter what the fatal dosage is, what the fatal concentration is, because once again, I don't know much about this. All I know is from what I've seen in the movies and what I've read in history books. But, sure, a certain amount may be fatal, but less than that can certainly be unpleasant. All it takes is just enough to get you on the ground, hacking up your lungs, basically trying to breathe. All of a sudden, you're immobilized. So all it takes is one guy from ISIS with a gas mask and an AK-47 to walk down the line, and there's nobody that's going to stop him. That's one of those things where I honestly believe that we need to deploy gas masks to all of our soldiers, just for this fact. It's not acceptable that our enemy, who does not abide by the Geneva Conventions, because they are not a regular military force, they are by definition terrorists. They have these weapons, and they will not hesitate to use them. Once again, they're already using them right now on Kurdish civilians, which, that's, yeah. Death to ISIS. That's all I can say. Death to ISIS. Anyway. Well, here's kind of an interesting one. This was another one where I read the headline and I'm like, okay, I have to have this story. Mainly because I wanted to see exactly where they were going with this. And after reading through the story, I've got some questions about it, and I do disagree with it. I don't know. The headline is, "Want good mental health? Get religion." Attending a church, synagogue, or mosque may be better for one's mental health than engaging in sports, furthering one's education, or volunteering. So say researchers at the London School of Economics and Erasmus MC, who studied the effects of these 4 types of activities on the mental health of 9,000 Europeans aged 50 and older. Reporting in the American Journal of Epidemiology, they also found that some activities, like joining a community organization like a political group, appear to result in less happiness in the long run. The church appears to play a very important social role in keeping depression at bay, and also as a coping mechanism during periods of illness in later life, says epidemiologist Dr. Mauricio Avendano, who notes religious activities were the only type to contribute to sustained happiness. Researchers admit the study's sample size is small, and they were not investigating why, but whether these types of 4 activities influence happiness. They do not note whether people in the study were new to these activities, or whether there was crossover between them, but they do posit a few theories. It is not clear to us how much of this is about religion per se, or whether it may be about the sense of belonging and not being socially isolated, says Avendano, who adds that this participation can influence lifestyle choices, reports the Oregonian. As for political organizations, he says, participants receive a higher sense of reward when they first join an organization. But if it involves a lot of effort and they don't get much in return, the benefits may wear off after some time. Now, see, once again, that's why it's at the top at the headline it says, "Want good mental health? Get religion." I don't view putting all of your trust and faith into a being whose existence cannot be proven, I don't see that as a good thing. I don't see that as being good for mental health. Say, hey, look, I've got an imaginary friend, and if you don't believe in him, you're going to burn in a lake of fire. You know, it's pardon. But when they rephrase it to talk strictly about happiness, okay, that I can kind of see then, because we've all heard the old adage, ignorance is bliss. Well, if ignorance is bliss, Christians are the fucking happiest people on the planet. Well, actually, I would think Muslims would be, but either way, the point being, religious fundamentalists are the happiest people on the planet by that rationale. And it does make sense because there is that deep-rooted fear of the unknown. That's personally, I don't know where I'm going to go when I die. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go fucking nowhere. As far as I'm concerned, I believe when I die, boom, that's it. I'm done. Lights off. Boom, party's over. We're done. Pardon me. But, I can see that some people would be kind of wavering on that, and, they don't like the idea of being done. I don't like the idea of death being the end. I don't like that idea, but I accept it. And I'll be honest, looking at it, it's made me not fear death. Don't get me wrong, I still have the same basic human fear of, hey, if you point a gun at me, I'm going to try and get out of the way. I don't want to get shot. I don't want to die. But that being said, I feel that it's made me place a greater value on life. It's the religious people, they can console themselves with, oh, well, Grandma died, but it's okay because she's going to heaven. Oh, okay, it's good for her. She's going to heaven. She's going to a good place. Whereas, I mean, they just keep the memory of Grandma alive, which is fine. But whereas the atheist like myself, who would, once again, I feel like I'm placing a greater value on human life just because now looking at it, I would rather spend as much time as I can with these people in my life and enjoy the time we have, because I'm not banking on any future that may or may not exist, and it probably doesn't. But that's it. Yeah. Again, just my opinion, but when you turn over all of your choices and all of your you know every choice you have to make, everything you have to do in life, when you turn all of that over to someone else, in this case God, I can see that being kind of happiness, because it's like, you remember how easy things were when we were kids? You didn't have a job to go to, you didn't have bills to pay, you didn't have any responsibilities really except to just be a kid. And that's, as far as I can understand, that's kind of the appeal of religion as well. It's, you don't have any responsibilities anymore. You just have a responsibility to just be a human. That's it. But anyway, moving on. Here we go. Here's actually an interesting story that I thought was pretty cool. I saw that this story I've actually been holding on to since May 16th. So I've held on to this one for a while, long enough for me to conduct my own scientific experiments in this field here. It's in the name. Pedialyte is aimed at small children. But even though that name isn't changing, the drink's target market is. A representative tells MarketWatch. Since 2012, thanks in large part to social media, the oral electrolytes use has exploded by 60% among the grown-up set, MarketWatch reports. Today, adults make up a third of Pedialyte drinkers, inspired in part by the likes of Pharrell Williams, who has publicized his love for the drink, which many believe is a great hangover cure. We saw increased use by adults. We have high electrolyte and lower sugar content than common hydration beverages, the representative says. That combination caused us to say, we need to be part of this. Now the company is pitching a See the Light marketing campaign that will put it up against the likes of Gatorade. The company will hit 144 sports games and music festivals with samples this year. At least one advertisement is hardly subtle about the product's use for hangovers. When last night's party threatens to ruin today, those in the know reach for Pedialyte, says the ad, as reported by CNBC. A recent Mother's Day ad depicted a card, ostensibly from a child, telling mom the drink goes well with both red and white. Pedialyte is unveiling powder packs as a large bottle alternative, as well as new flavors aimed at adults like strawberry lemonade. Does it really work as a post-party pick-me-up? Well, it does combat dehydration, an expert tells CNBC. In Pedialyte and Gatorade, he says, there is an optimal concentration to absorb glucose and electrolytes and fluid from the intestines. But a brand consultant raises some marketing doubts. It's like going out and having a headache and someone asks, would you like children's Tylenol? Pardon. It does bring a valid point. It is a lot like children's Tylenol for a headache, but keep in mind, children's Tylenol is the same stuff as regular Tylenol, just smaller dosages. Pedialyte, it's formulated more for an infant. For it to really work in an adult's digestive system, you're gonna have to drink more. Which, personally, I think that might be why it's better than Gatorade at curing hangovers. That's right. I forgot to mention. Like I said, I did do scientific trials over 3 separate nights. I drank myself pretty much to oblivion. Had fun doing it. Woke up the next morning with the hangover from hell. And first day, I tried a hangover cure that I've always known and stood by for a long time, which is 2 Alka-Seltzer first thing in the morning, and then a sausage and egg McMuffin, basically. The greasier, the better. You get that, and boom, I'm clear as a bell. The rest of the day, I'm good. That worked out pretty well. The next day, I tried just Gatorade. Not so good. I mean, it worked, but not as good as my tried and true hangover cure. And then the third day, I tried the Pedialyte. And I will say this, it did work better than the Gatorade. Still not as good as my tried and true hangover method. But it worked. It worked pretty good. This stuff it's easy to drink. I mean, it goes down just like water. It's got really subtle flavors. So, I mean, it is pretty good. If it wasn't for the fact that the stuff's not cheap, I mean, the hell, I'd probably be drinking it regularly. But no, like I said, when it comes to hangovers, 2 Alka-Seltzer, and then go out and get yourself something sausage and greasy. Nothing works better. At least, once again, just for me anyway. Now, moving on to the rage-inducing stories that I promised earlier. We're going to start this one. This one is kind of a long one. So, how much time do we have left? I got about 10 minutes. All right, perfect. Like I said, this is a bit of a long one. An Alabama teen will be allowed to sue a school district that used her as bait in a botched sting operation designed to catch another student committing a sexual assault, an incident that resulted in the girl's rape, according to a federal appeals court ruling. Which, by the way, before I get all the way into this story, this is the story of this week's Asshole of the Week. This week's Asshole of the Week is a teacher, named June Simpson. No relation to Homer and Marge, I'm sure. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit in Atlanta said in a decision handed down Wednesday that administrators from the Madison County School District in Alabama behaved with deliberate indifference when they instructed a 14-year-old girl to go to the bathroom with a fellow student who had repeatedly been accused of sexual misconduct in order to catch him in the act. When the teachers failed to go to the bathroom in time to intervene, the alleged assailant forcibly sodomized the girl, according to court documents. The appeals court decision reversed the ruling of a lower court, which had found that the school district had not violated Title IX, a federal education law that bans sex discrimination at all public schools and is increasingly being invoked in sexual harassment and assault cases at the college level. The law guarantees an education free of all forms of sex discrimination, including sexual violence, as outlined in the 2011 letter from the U.S. Department of Education. These are highly unique and extreme facts that will hopefully never again be repeated, wrote the appeals court judges in a 75-page ruling. A person in the victim's position could have no confidence in a school system that orchestrates a rape bait scheme and whose disciplinary file describes the assailant's rape of her as inappropriate touching of a female in a boy's bathroom. The student was 14 years old at the time of the incident at Sparkman Middle School, near Huntsville, Alabama. Named as Jane Doe in court documents to protect her identity, the student had complained to her teacher in January 2010 that a male student had asked her to go to the boy's bathroom and have sex with him. Teachers and administrators knew that the boy, who is referred to in court documents as CJC, had been propositioning girls to have sex with him at school, and that the school principal ordered that he be closely monitored at all times, according to court documents. The boy had been propositioning Doe for weeks before the incident, and she had always ignored him. But when the girl eventually approached teacher June Simpson about it, Simpson told her that she should go to the bathroom with him. "Don't do anything," Simpson said, according to court records. "Just get him to meet you and we'll catch him." Simpson suggested this, she testified, because the school principal, Ronnie Blair, had created a catch-in-the-act sexual harassment policy in order to impose discipline on any student. Students in middle school, especially with the use of social media, tend to make up a lot of stories about people, the principal had said. Pardon me. In addition, Sparkman Middle School did not review the school's sexual harassment policy with staff each school year, and Blair testified that he couldn't remember who the school's Title IX coordinator was at the time of the assault. Teachers were never given a copy of the sexual harassment policy, though some of them recalled going to an after-school workshop about it. According to court records, the school's policy was that if a student came forward to complain about sexual harassment, but the allegation wasn't proven, the school would quickly destroy the witness statements. If the allegations did get proven, paper files would be kept in the principal's office, but they were shredded at the end of each school year, and limited logs would be made in a student discipline computer base. CJC had already logged 5 sexual misconduct infractions and 4 incidents of violence in the database during the 18 months before the alleged rape. But when a student came forward in January 2010 to complain that CJC had inappropriately touched her, just weeks before he would go on to assault Doe on January 22nd, an assistant principal dismissed it as middle school drama. The staff also failed to review CJC's disciplinary record when investigating the complaint, court records said. And I'm going to actually skip through because this is a long story. A rape kit test performed on the girl at a child advocacy center showed results consistent with rape, although the Madison County District Attorney's Office never filed charges against the alleged assistant, court records said. My goodness. The Madison County School Board had an expulsion hearing about CJC, but instead sentenced him to alternative school placement. In April of 2010, he was sent back to Sparkman after a teacher at the alternative school caught him looking at porn on a school computer. But at that point, Doe had already been transferred to another school. She now attends counseling sessions, takes medication for her depression, no longer participates in extracurricular activities like basketball, and her grades have suffered, the court documents said. According to Doe's attorney, Eric Artrip, unless either party appeals the case to the Supreme Court, his client's suit against the school district will be handed back to the lower court in Alabama to be tried before a jury. I can only hope that that happens. This needs to go to a jury trial. This needs to be done. These people need to be fired and potentially arrested for child endangerment. It's not right when you're in a position of authority, like a teacher or a school's principal, and a child comes up to you and says, hey, something bad is happening, and your only response is, oh, it's just middle school drama. That's not right. I got just barely enough time for one last story that I desperately want to get in. This was another story that boils my blood. An 11-year-old rape victim in Paraguay is now a mother. The girl, whose case caused a fierce debate on abortion that divided the country, gave birth to a healthy baby girl at a hospital in Asunción yesterday, CNN reports. The infant was delivered via C-section and weighed 7 pounds 13 ounces. The now mother was 10 when authorities say she was raped by her stepfather, even after he had been reported for sexual abuse. But even though pregnancy can be very risky in girls that young, and Amnesty International said forcing her to continue the pregnancy was tantamount to torture, she was denied an abortion under strict laws that say the procedure is only allowed when there is a risk to the mother's health. The girl and her baby are in good condition, but that does not excuse the human rights violations she suffered at the hands of the Paraguayan authorities, who decided to gamble with her health, life, and integrity. The girl's mother has been charged with neglect. She was released on bond in June and has been at her daughter's bedside these last 10 days, reports The Guardian. The 32-year-old says she was the one who reported the abuse. CNN says in November 2013. The Guardian says as early as January 2014. But a health official told CNN neighbors actually alerted authorities and claims the mother denied the abuse. The girl's stepfather, who claimed to be infertile when he was arrested, is awaiting trial. A doctor at the hospital where the 11-year-old gave birth says 2 12-year-old girls and several young teens are waiting to give birth, the BBC reports. That's just plain unfucking acceptable. It's just not right. You know, I really hate to end this episode on such a terrible, terrible note like that, but unfortunately we are out of time. Yeah. This has been Brain Power. The next show will be, once again, it'll likely be Saturday, August 22nd. And as usual, if you have a story you'd like covered here or a question you'd like answered, send me a message on Twitter at BrainPowerUp, use the hashtag BrainPowerUp, like the group at facebook.com/BrainPowerOnline, or visit the website at brainpoweronline.webs.com.